أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الحمد لله الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم والصلاة والسلام على سيد العرب والعجم صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه صلى الله عليه وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى أزواجه أمهاته المؤمنين وعلى أصحاب الغر غر الميامين وعلى من تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أشد الناس بلاء الأنبياء ثم الصالحون ثم الأمثل فالأمثل وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله إذا أحب عبدا ابتلاه. Today, inshallah, the subject for the khutbah will be regarding disability in Islam. What are the teachings of Islam with regards to this subject? How is something like this perceived in Islam? What are the obligations of the community towards people with disabilities? Look, my dear brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent us this beautiful deen of Islam, this gift of Iman to teach us good from bad, right from wrong. This gift of Iman that Allah ta'ala has given us is to take us out of the darkness of ignorance and into the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah alladhi hadana lihada wa ma kunna linahtadiya lawla an hadana Allah. Alhamdulillah alladhi hadana ala ni'matil Islam. Before Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was given nubuwwah, prophethood, there was a misunderstanding that the people had at that time. So there was a misunderstanding before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was given nubuwwah, that the people in the Arabs would have a misunderstanding regarding people with disabilities, with different kinds of disabilities. Someone was blind, or someone was deaf, or someone was paralyzed. Anyone with some disability, the people of that time had this stigma surrounding it. The misunderstanding they had was that they would think that if we come into contact with such people, if we are around people like this, then whatever disability that they have, it will rub onto us, we will also get it. This was their thinking at that time. And also their understanding was that if they are to come into contact with any disabled person, regardless of what that disability may be, their belief was if we come too close to them, then it will bring misfortune to us. So at all costs, they used to avoid them. They would not sit with them. They would not talk much with them. They would not eat with them because this was their belief, right? You could call it almost like a superstition. That if we sit too close, then their disabilities will transfer to us. Now, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave nubuwwah to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so of course Allah ta'ala now was going to change and transform society. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ayah saying, لَيْسَ عَلَى الْأَعْمَى حَرَجٌ وَلَا عَلَى الْأَعْرَجِ حَرَجٌ وَلَا عَلَى الْمَرِيضِ حَرَجٌ. Allah ta'ala revealed the ayah that if there is someone who is blind among you, or someone who has a loss of limb among you, or someone who is ill, sick, or disabled among you. So what is it? لَيْسَ عَلَيْكُمْ جُنَاحٌ أَن تَأْكُلُوا جَمِيعًا. Allah said, nothing will happen to you if you sit down and eat together. Nothing will happen. لَيْسَ عَلَيْكُمْ جُنَاحٌ. Give that idea up. So after Allah ta'ala revealed these ayah, slowly people started mingling with them and speaking with them and started sitting with them, because Allah ta'ala said nothing will happen. It's not true that their disability will transfer to you. Then when people started mixing with these people with disabilities, fine, they are sitting and talking to them, but they still did not stop making fun of them for the disabilities that they had. And usually, the people in this world, this is how it works. If someone sees something that's the other person that he doesn't have, that's unknown, it looks weird. So people start making fun of them, and they will start giving them nicknames, calling them things. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then revealed the ayah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la yaskhar qawmun min qawm. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying now that you've begun mingling with them, so don't make fun of them. And then Allah explained, Asa an yakunu khayran minhum, because perhaps those who are you making fun of can be better than you. Wala nisa'un min nisa'. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also said about the woman that you also do the same. Women should not be making fun of other women. Salama radiallahu anha, she was one of the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She was very short in height. So some of the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to poke fun at her sometimes for being very short. So Allah Ta'ala revealed the ayah saying, وَلَا نِسَاءٌ مِّن نِسَاءٍ. Even the women among you shouldn't make fun of the other women. عَسَىٰ أَن يَكُنَّ خَيْرًا مِّنْهُنَّ. Perhaps those you are making fun of may be better than you. وَلَا تَنَابَزُوا بِالْأَلْقَابِ. And don't give each other these nicknames. Don't give this laqab, don't give this recognition of calling each other with these bad nicknames. So Allah Ta'ala like this cleared the misconception of the people at that time regarding the understanding they had about disabilities. Then Allah also said, don't even make fun of one another, because perhaps that they can be better than you. Perhaps they're the better part of society. Okay? So up till here we understand. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Inna Allah la yanduru ila suwarikum wa amwalikum. Allah does not look at our appearances and our bodies. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at each and any one of us, Allah doesn't see our bodies and our wealth. Allah ta'ala rather He looks, وَلَكِنْ يَنْظُرُ إِلَىٰ قُلُوبِكُمْ وَأَعْمَالِكُمْ. Allah ta'ala will look at our hearts and the deeds that follow from there. Meaning, gaining closeness to Allah does not depend on how perfect the person's body is, or the color of their skin, or what their disability may be or may not be. Gaining closeness to Allah depends on a person's a'mal. So people began to understand that really there should be no stigma around such a thing. And Allah Ta'ala cleared this misconception of theirs. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained to us a very powerful hadith. This is hadith, you call it hadith Qudsi, meaning it's regarding Allah. It's straight from Allah, what Allah wants to say. It comes down on the day of judgment. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, Allah Ta'ala will come, will call someone on the day of judgment, and the person will stand in front of Allah, and Allah Ta'ala will say, Ya ibn Adam, maridtu falam ta'udni. Maridtu falam ta'udni. O son of Adam, O insan, I fell sick, I was ill, I was disabled, I needed someone, lam ta'udni, and you did not visit me. Allah Ta'ala will say this to a person, that I was ill, you didn't visit me. So the person will say, Ya Rabb, kayfa a'uduk wa anta rabbul alameen. Ya Allah, how did you become sick, and how was I supposed to visit you? And you are the Lord of all the universes. You are Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do you become sick? How is it possible? So Allah Ta'ala will answer him, Ama alimta anna abdi fulanan marida falam ta'udhu. Don't you know that so and so person was ill and needy and you did not visit him? What does this mean? Allah Ta'ala is explaining to us ill, the status of the disabled, the sick and the elderly. Allah Ta'ala is honoring them so much that Allah is referring to himself as that sick person. There is no maqam higher than this. There is no status that is higher than this. And this is a sign of closeness to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Let me give you an example. It comes in one hadith Qudsi. Allah Ta'ala says that when Allah begins to love a person, مَا زَالَ عَبْدِي يَتَقَرَّبُ إِلَيَّ بِالنَّوَافِلِ. Allah Ta'ala said that a person will keep on performing voluntary deeds, nawafil. So much so Allah says, until a time will come when I will begin to love this person. Then Allah Ta'ala said, when I begin to love someone, فَإِذَا أَحْبَبْتُهُ كُنْتَ سَمْعَهُ الَّذِي يَسْمَعُ بِهِ وَبَصَرَهُ الَّذِي يُبْصِرُ بِهِ وَإِذَا هُ الَّتِي يَبْطِشُ بِهَا وَرِجْلَهُ الَّتِي يَمْشِي بِهَا. Allah Ta'ala says, when I love someone, I become the eyes that they see, and the ears that they hear with, and the hands that they touch with, and the feet that they walk with. Meaning Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is saying, when He loves someone, then He puts Himself in the place of that person to show how close Allah is to someone. Do you understand? This is the way Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala shows us. Similarly, Allah Ta'ala puts Himself in the place of an ill and a sick and a disabled person to show how close such people are in the eyes of Allah. So, look, there are two things that we must remember, my dear brothers and sisters. Number one, if we ourselves or our parents of those who have disabilities, whatever it may be, whether it's the loss of eyesight or some mental health issue, autism, or any mental health disorder, or the loss of limb, whatever it may be, two things. Number one, we must always remember that this is not a punishment from Allah. This is not a punishment from Allah. That you know, na'udhu billah, maybe something you did or something wrong that happened, this is why this has happened. No, this is not the case. Such things do not happen as a punishment from Allah. Rather, these are all tests from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah alone knows how to test what person with what type of test. Keeping in mind this beautiful hadith that I mentioned earlier in the khutbah, Inna Allah idha ahabba abdan ibtalahu. When Allah loves someone, then only then Allah will test them. Okay? So this is the first thing. That is not a punishment from Allah. It is a test from Allah. And it is a sign that Allah Ta'ala loves someone. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when someone loves someone, when Allah loves someone, then He begins to test this person. And the second thing is, sometimes it can get very overwhelming. Of course, we are human beings, and what happens is we begin to look at other people. When you are in this type of situation yourself, you start to look at other people and say, I wish I had that person's life. I wish I was in that person's shoes. That person, what type of test they're going through is probably much easier than my test. People do this. They wish to be in other people's positions. This is also something we should never do. Why? Because many, many times the actual thing is, the person's shoes that you want to be in his test is 10 times harder than yours. Just because that person is smiling from the outside does not mean that they're not crying from the inside. We know this very well. A person sometimes may seem as if their life is going very well. It's all sorted and put together. But only that person knows himself how difficult of a test they have been put through by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning, this is life. This is dunya. There is no such thing as life, as dunya, without test. There is no person alive who is living and who is not going through a test right now. From the time a baby is born and the teeth begin to come out and the pain the baby goes through, till the time a person becomes old and their teeth begin to fall out again. In between these two times, a person is not free from tests. And this is just the way Allah has made this life. The only time a person will ever live without going through a test is when they enter the gates of Jannah. Insha'Allah ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst them. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that when the people of Jannah will enter through the gates, an announcement will be made all throughout Jannah. And that announcement will be that now you've entered Jannah. Anta sihhu fala tasqumu abada. That now you will remain healthy and never have to worry about becoming sick. Now you'll remain young and you'll never have to worry about becoming old. And now you'll remain happy and you will never have to worry about being sad. This announcement will only be made then. Now you will live and never have to worry about death coming to you. In Jannah, my dear brothers and sisters, in Jannah, in paradise, there is no death, no age, no sickness, no sadness. But in this dunya, the full package comes. This is the whole thing. This is what this dunya consists of. It is a part of this life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, a very eloquent ayah, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. We have created insan fi kabad, in difficulty, the translation is. There's a very interesting point here about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used this ayah to explain this. Because in Arabic, the word for difficulty is not kabad. Right? In Arabic, the word for difficulty you can say is mashaqqa. That's difficulty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, He could have said, we created insan fi mashaqqa, in difficulty. Which in Arabic, but He said in kabad, fi kabad. Which actually in Arabic, in Lugwi, when you look at the actual word itself, it does not mean difficult. Kabad means liver. Your liver is called kabad. So what is the connection between liver and difficulty? Look, there are some parts of the body that even if they are removed, we can live without, right? Some people, they have a stomach issue, they get their appendix removed. And there are some parts of the body that if they are taken out, a person cannot survive. The liver is one of those organs that the body needs it to survive. If the liver is taken out, the person will die. So the liver is one of those organs in the body that is with a person from the day they are born to the day they die, and it's something they can never be separated or taken out from. It says it stays with the person their entire life. So similarly, Allah is explaining that just the way the liver is something that cannot be separated from you, similarly, tests and difficulties in this life are something that cannot be separated from you. It is a part and parcel of life. Just the way this organ is a part of you, similarly, difficulties and tests will also be a part of you. They will not be separated. Never a time will come in a person's life where they are not being tested. And this is why each of us must just learn to be patient. This is the wisdom in the ayah, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ and وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. So patience is something that's a fundamental that has to be a part of each and one of our lives in order for us to be successful in these tests that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained for us. That inshallah that we will all pass. There's a hadith, inshallah I'll end off with this. There's a hadith Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in which he explains the likes of how a person with disabilities should be perceived. Right? There's a hadith on how the likes of a person with disabilities should be perceived. It's a very interesting hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said that sometimes a person, sabaqat lahu min Allahi manzila, sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained, has given someone a very high status, a very high maqam. Lam yablaghuha ilm, lam yablaghuha bi'amali. But Allah also knows that this person will not be able to reach this status just through a'mal. His good deeds will not get him there. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, now this person has to reach this status, but his good deeds will not get him there. So how will he get there? Ibtalahu Allahu fi jasadihi, aw fi malihi, aw fi waladihi. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah will afflict him, Allah will test him with something in his own body, like Allah did to Ayyub alayhi salatu wasalam. Or Allah will afflict him and test him by taking some of his wealth away. Or Allah will test him by afflicting his children or child with something. ثُمَّ صَبَرَهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah will not just put this person through a test and let him be. No. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah will put a person through this test of disability or illness, and then Allah will also give him the strength of patience to be and to pass this test. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, حَتَّى يَبْلَغَهُ الْمَنْزِلَةُ الَّتِي سَبَقَتْ لَهُ مِنَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. He will be patient with whatever Allah has given him until the point comes, he will reach that very high maqam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set for him. So whenever you see someone with some illness or some disability like this, think of it like this, that this person has such a high status in the eyes of Allah ta'ala, that Allah maybe afflicted him with this, so his patience can get him to the high status that Allah ta'ala maybe has not put for me, has not given me. This is how Islam teaches us to look at this deen of Islam. One of the beauties of it is that it lies in its inclusivity. It isn't it? That this deen, it's inclusive to all. This deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not come for any specific group of people or any specific status of people. It is for whether you are old or young, rich or poor, able or unable. It is for everyone. And this is the beauty of Islam. And Allah Ta'ala has made it easy for each and every person. It is not as if a person that is healthy can get closer to Allah than someone that is not. That is not the case. Rather, it can be the opposite. That someone who is not healthy and disabled, it is easier for them to get closer to Allah than the other way around. So inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all tawfiq to understand whatever has been said. Alhamdulillah. You know, this understanding that the deen gives us, it is a ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we must sit and we must try to understand and have the same perspective that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen for us to have. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all tawfiq. Allahumma afina fi asma'ina, Allahumma afina fi abdalina, Allahumma afina fi absarina, la ilaha illa ant, subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. Alhamdulillah, subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursalin, walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Alhamdulillah. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد بعدد من قعد وقام اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد بعدد من صلى وصام إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما عباد الله برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون ولذكر الله تعالى أعلى وأولى وأعز وأجل وأتم وأهم وأكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. أقيم الصلاة.